you see should be able to yield us some more, and more importantly should be more equitable. I mean, if only about 30% of vehicles are contributing to road tolls, and for example Accra, look at the population dynamics in Accra. For Accra, it's just Temamoto Way, or when you are going to Akosombo, or to Aplao, or to Takrade or Ebri or Pokwase. These are the only places where you pay. But look at the population density in Accra and the vehicles in Accra. And look at the other parts of the country that also need roads, many of which roads we are not able to toll and take any money from. So you have to ask yourself, is this efficient? Can you find another way of maybe swapping for another mechanism of mobilizing that same money, but in a more efficient manner? And that is the balance that you have to see the finance minister work. The important thing is that we do it in a way that doesn't make poor people worse off. And I think that's the challenge that he'll be responding to today.
And conversations with analysts, they're also saying Ghanaians shouldn't be too overly expectant with this 2022 budget. What would you have to say to some of these comments that come in?
Well, I'll disagree with them. I think Ghanaians should be expectant on all sides, on the revenue side, on the expenditure side, on the borrowing side, and on the economic policy side. You should expect, like some of the things I've outlined to you, things that will help get us to a better place next year than we are this year.
We are being told that we are not going back to the IMF, but we are going to the Eurobond. But still, will this not increase our debt stock, which is overly already high?
There are rules about borrowing that we ourselves have come to Parliament to put in place. That borrowing need not be zero, but it should not be more than 5% of GDP. We believe that is what we call the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Because of COVID, we've had to suspend it, and we are now around 11% of GDP. You will see in this budget the fiscal path coming back down, that we are bringing it down to about 7.9%. Next budget maybe about 6%, and then take it back to 5%. That is evidence that we are reducing the rate of debt accumulation. That is evidence that we are reducing the deficit from 11 to about 5 at the end of the day. If you look at the CD-denominated debt stock, I keep telling my colleagues, you will be misled. Because if the exchange rate is 1 CD, $1, if you owe $100, it's 100 million CDs. If the exchange rate changes to 1.5, you don't need to borrow more. The next morning, the same $100 million is now 150 million CDs. So if you use CD that it was 100 million CDs, is now 150 million CDs. You have borrowed 50 million CDs. Show me what you've done with it. That 50 million change in the CD-denominated debt stock is not as a result of borrowing. And that is why all over the world, they use debt to GDP ratio. They use deficit. They use other debt sustainability indicators. And that is what we're encouraging, that we should also now watch those ones and see. Because for the CD-denominated debt stock, it can very much mislead you. And even for that, those who want to do politics with it, we can compare the about 9 billion CDs that the NDC inherited to the about 124 billion that they left, and compare the 124 billion of the MPP to the about 300 something billion that we have now, and strike the percentage and see who is more responsible when it comes to that. But that kind of nominal comparison,
should that be the case?
But that's exactly the point I'm making to you. It won't get us anywhere. Yeah. Even if we choose to play that game, we will play it better than our colleagues on the other side. But that kind of game won't get us anywhere. It is the sustainability indicators that we should keep an eye on. And that's what we think, if we look at it, we'll see a clear path downwards.
My last but one. The agriculture sector. We understand from the agri minister that food prices are low. But the story is different when you go to the markets. Fertilizer has also been another issue. What should we expect in that sector?
I mean, to the extent that storage and privatized production and sale and market prices operate, you will find that even the prices sometimes differ from market to market, though you may see a general trend in it. But I think we can also agree that there's a lot that has been done in terms of boosting local food production. And expected to come along with the increase in local food production is a stabilization of the prices. You need a warehousing system that can hold a lot of the products so that you don't have shortage at some times and abundance at another time, which will cause price fluctuations. And you've seen the number of warehouses that have been put up across the country and now being handed over to the various assemblies or agencies that are responsible for it. So over time, we should expect that there will be some more stability in that area if we follow the kind of interventions that we are doing.
I would have gone on and on with this particular one because the story is different. Okay, finally.
The story is not different. The story is not different. Finally. No, listen. I think we have to be clear with it. The story, I'm coming. The story is not different. you will find some prices. I mean, if you say food prices, what are you talking about? The food price I may have in mind may be different from, the food item I may have in mind may be different from what you are talking about. So we can drill into the detail. But I'm saying that generally,
general market,
and I'm saying that generally,
reactions.
Yes, and I'm saying that generally, some more work needs to be done to ensure that stability that we are looking for. That stability doesn't just come.
So you agree it is not low, but
it is not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about what are we doing to ensure that what we all want happens. And what we need to do is to ensure that the warehousing system works, is to ensure that the support to the farmers are not cut at any point in time, fertilizers, etc. Some of the things we are talking about are about fertilizer,
right.
To ensure that post-harvest losses are dealt with so that you don't have fluctuations of prices. And I'm saying that these interventions are things we need to push and support.
Let me wrap up. 2021, we're told to share in the burden with government. 2022, what should Ghanaians expect? Should there be some hope for us?
A lot of hope for young entrepreneurs, a lot of hope for our roads program, a lot of hope for young people on NAPCO, a lot of hope for local industry that is hoping to be competitive as it's being strangled by imported goods.
Thank you so much, Kojo.